Thank you, Ambassador Sales. I now recognize Ms. Ledeen for your opening statement of 5 minutes.
Chairman Pfluger, Ranking Member Magaziner, and distinguished members of the subcommittee, thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today. My experience with the 2021 withdrawal from Afghanistan began when I started receiving requests for assistance from people trying to help contacts on the ground. The stories of chaos that I was hearing did not align with the picture that the US government was trying to paint about the withdrawal. I was invited to join a group chat that included military members and individuals with experience in the intelligence community. The chat allowed us to piece information together, forming a picture of the reality on the ground so we could help vetted people leave. It was a spontaneous volunteer effort, the scope of which we did not initially comprehend. Our strategy was to find ways for individuals who had the appropriate documentation to gain entry to the airport with the assistance of US service members who were participating in the evacuation. This was challenging with thousands of people crowding the airport perimeter. People we helped included American citizens, legal permanent residents, interpreters, intelligence assets, and some Afghan commandos. Yet as the messages rolled in, I wondered, how did we get to the point where volunteers were offering more support to evacuees than our own government? Today, I'd like to give a few examples from our group's involvement, which demonstrate that after 20 years of fighting, everything quickly collapsed. We could not identify who was running the airport. We were contacted by civilian volunteers, NGOs, universities, and corporate entities who had planes either on the ground or en route to evacuate people. However, these planes could not get in contact with anyone, nor could their passengers access the gate. Outside the airport gates, the US failed to create a safe, organized process to identify individuals who should have been permitted entry. The US government instructed American citizens to shelter in place because the Taliban controlled entry to the city and the airport, beating people, including Americans, and burning their exit documents. When the State Department said the airport was secure, we knew this was wrong. If the airport was safe, why tell American citizens to hide? For every one group that made it through, it seemed like 10 did not. Among those we helped was an Afghan woman who had worked with US intelligence on a clandestine platform. With the assistance of a Marine who ran half an hour across the airport to find her, she and her family waded through a canal of human waste to get inside the airport and are safe today. On August 25th, with virtual assistance from our team, the heroic service members on the ground rescued 25 interpreters and former contract employees of a US intelligence agency, including a double amputee who came on foot with his family. Our group also supported the evacuation of high-risk Afghans who had assisted the FBI. That evening, 11 buses filled with evacuees could not enter the airport, and an urgent security alert advised US citizens to avoid the airport gates. Despite efforts to contact authorities, American citizens were left stranded outside the gates. Some gained access only after intervention from higher-level officials. Many of the Afghans were denied entry and, to my knowledge, never made it out. A suicide bomber attacked Abbey Gate, killing 13 American service members and grievously wounding dozens more. Over 100 Afghans were murdered, including the young son of an interpreter who we had been helping moments earlier. As the airport gates were sealed shut, requests for our help continued for 300 orphans who were dispersed in the blast, music students, and religious and ethnic minorities. They did not make it inside, and I do not know what happened to any of them. Only after the Taliban had captured Kabul and Americans were taken hostage did President Biden finally address the nation. The Taliban immediately asserted its power, hunting our Afghan allies house to house. Some members of our group received torture and murder videos of their friends and former colleagues sent by the Taliban from their own victims' phones. Our Afghan allies who did not make it out now live in constant fear, many in safe houses or in third countries like Pakistan and Iran, where they are recruited by their military and intelligence services to learn what they know, learn what we had taught them. In the country where Americans have fought and died for 2 decades, ISIS Khorasan has regained immense strength, and the Taliban are the best armed terrorist group the world has ever known. Afghanistan is once again a terrorist safe haven. Many of us remember that what happens in Afghanistan, unfortunately, does not stay there. In fiscal year 2022, 98 people on our terrorist watch list crossed over our southern border that we know of, and 324 individuals evacuated from Afghanistan were allowed to enter the US despite appearing on the Defense Department's biometrically enabled watch list. How many more have entered undetected? Our warfighters went into harm's way to keep us safe, but today our leaders act as if the war never happened. We must hold those responsible for the failed Afghanistan withdrawal accountable. In my written testimony, I've called for policies that would provide greater care to our veterans who are reeling from seeing their hard-fought gains abandoned, and I've also suggested ways to improve the special immigration visa process. Moreover, I think there should be an official effort to document the critical work done by volunteer groups during the evacuation so that we can model their successes in future conflict environments. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today, and I look forward to your questions.